Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. The topic of this 10-minute moan is a cracker. Every so often I get a story that just gives me the fits of the giggles, right? And this one, you might read it yourself and think, okay, well that's not that funny, but when you understand the history of what's going on here, you probably end up feeling a bit like me. So this story, right, is Alex Ferguson, the legend Man United manager, is upset James Dornan from the SNP. He's an MSP. He's quite a bitter little man, is James. Mad Celtic fan, hates anything to do with Rangers, and obviously is a passionate nationalist because of obviously his politics. So he often makes a complete arse of himself on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. So, but there's previous to this. So I'll read out the story, give my insight into it, and I'll tell you about the previous thing that Alex Ferguson done to upset the Nats, because he's got a history of it, believe me. So today's story in the Express, headline: Alex Ferguson upsets James Dornan as SNP MSP is left bamboozled by the Man United legend. The Glasgow Cathcart MSP has questioned why the former Aberdeen gaffer has been speaking to Sir Keir Starmer about how to win the general election, right? So he's a leader, the guy, isn't he? I think about Alex Ferguson, one of the best leaders ever in the UK. It doesn't matter, it's just football, just in general, a leader of men. Gets a name, goes for it, wins it, right? Done it umpteen times in his career, so I suppose it makes sense if somebody like Keir Starmer is wanting to become the next Prime Minister, he would talk to such a person to get feedback. Now, Alex has often spoke about his socialist upbringing in Glasgow, right? So the fact that he might support the Labour Party should be no surprise to anybody other than a numbnutted MSP, right? So Alex Ferguson has upset SNP MSP after it emerged he was giving Keir Starmer tips on how to win the election. James Dornan claimed the legendary Man United manager suffered from blindness, particularly as he once again waded into the football arena, because your James has got previous for that. Sir Alex is known to be a Labour supporter and is also a backer of the Union ahead of the 2014 independence referendum. But Mr Dornan was upset with the Labour leader revealing he had spoken to Fergie, who also managed Scotland at the World Cup in 1986, about the election. It comes just days after the Glasgow Cathcart MSP claimed Celtic players were being picked on in coverage of the Scotland at the Euros, right? That was after we got smashed in the first game, and some folk had up at a couple of Celtic players, you know, like pundits that know what they're talking about, and he was like, how dare you, that's terrible, you're good, all that nonsense, right? Can't he help himself, probably had a beer. Posting on X on Saturday, Mr Dornan, who is stepping down in 2026, said he had been watching a documentary in Dennis Law in which Fergie spoke so proudly about him being Scottish. But he added, today I wake up to see the same Fergie is apparently telling people to vote for a party that denies the people of Scotland their democratic rights. He went on, I know Fergie's a long-time Labour supporter and understand why he would encourage them to vote like that in England, but seriously, here in Scotland, the only thing they care about is ensuring our voices are muzzled. Now this is Dornan, it's no finished yet. Dornan later added, I do understand why he sees Labour as his party, his background and the fact he's lived in England for so many decades, but this blindness as their position in Scottish democracy bamboozles me. So James has got this thing, right, that they believe the only way you can be a proud Scottish person is vote for SNP and want independence. So thereby, everybody that doesn't vote SNP or want independence is not a proud Scot. That is a simple reason why Scotland's on its arse, right? It is divided because of idiots like James Dornan, right? You cannot be proud Scottish and want to be part of the Union, according to crackpots like him. And that's why we're in such a shite hole right now. So thanks, James, for being a proper bigot. You'll not take exception to that, though, because you think bigots are only people like me that want a union, support Rangers, and are Protestants, right? Good news for you, you're a bigot, okay? It comes after Sir Keir ruled out a second independence referendum if the SNP wins a majority of seats in the upcoming general election. Speaking to the Daily Record, the Labour leader described Sir Alex, who won 47 trophies as a manager with Aberdeen and Man United, as a winner with strong Labour values. He said, I spoke to him a few weeks ago and he was on it as ever with the winning mentality. He is someone who has always had strong values, that have gone through everything that he's done. Labour values, of course, with the real focus in winning, but also Sir Alex has never forgotten his roots. It was really good for me to be able to chat with him. He gave me some views on where we should go. His mentality and my mentality are similar in this respect, that he knows the single objective when you're building a football team, running a football team, managing a football team is to win. My objective is to put my team, my Labour Party, in position where we can win. It was great to talk to him. It's the values, the history, the roots with Alex, which has made him what he is. So, that all makes sense to somebody like me, right? Because he's a socialist. He doesn't hide it. He's never hidden his desire for the Labour Party. But James Dornan got upset. Now, I did say there was more to this, right? I understand, and that's why I found it particularly funny. Maybe more funny than I should, and more funny than other people, right? But back in the run-up to the referendum, Alex Salmond put a proposal on fundraising for yes and no campaigns. And he proposed that nobody should be allowed, not one single person should have any, donation of more than £500. It was discussed very publicly. What did Alex Ferguson do? Absolute belter. Alex Ferguson donated £501 into the Yes campaign, right? The Better Together campaign, as it were, at the time. Sorry, the Yes campaign. Why would he ever do that? He put in £501 donation to the Better Together campaign, very publicly. And that, to me, gave me the giggles, because that was a clear 2 fingers up to not only Alex Salmond, but to the whole Yes campaign, saying, I'll do what I want, because I'm Alex Ferguson. I support the union. There's £501. What you got to do about it? No, would be very surprised if that was his only donation. But the fact they made a single donation of £501, while the leader of the Yes movement, Alex Salmond, was telling folk for fairness we should be restricted to £500. So it just made me laugh. It was funny. Now, you add in what he's doing now, these nationalists, the complete potty ones like James Dornan, are really upset. But that goes back to what I said earlier. He's now trying to claim that Alex Ferguson is not a proud Scotsman. He's trying to question that because he doesn't vote SNP or support SNP. He obviously couldn't vote for them because I think he still lives down in Cheshire somewhere. So that's what we've got. That's what we're dealing with up here, right? And believe me, if there's anybody in England that doesn't understand the sort of full picture of what Scotland is just now, because you may think that Scotland all want independence and Westminster's cruel for not allowing us a referendum and all that bollocks, simply not true. 55% of the population voted against independence not so long ago. And they're quite happy. They're like, okay, can we just stop the nonsense now? But the SNP obviously need to keep banging that drum, even though they can't put a manageable, achievable plan on the table on how to achieve independence. They're going down the road of we get most of the seats, and I'll not even get into that. I've done hundreds of videos about it, but what they're proposing is that if they get 30 seats at Westminster, which you could do with about 30% of the vote, then that gives them a mandate for the referendum. And what's going to happen? They won't get 29 seats, so they won't have that. But even if they did, what would happen next is Westminster would go, well, you only get 30% of the votes, so bugger off. And then it would be, that's at Westminster denying the democratic right of the Scottish people. No, they just know how to count, right? Because you just don't. These are crackers. These are absolute bangers, right? So, I thought I'd overrun there. That's okay. I do apologise because my videos are starting to stretch. My 10-minute moans are starting to sneak into more, and a lot more, some of them, than 10 minutes. So I try to keep them within the parameters. I don't want any nationalists taking me to court for trade's description or, saying it's a 10-minute moan and that on was 12 minutes, all that nonsense, because that's how mental they are. So there we go. I think it's fantastic. Alex Ferguson, the bit about supporting the Labour Party is neither up nor down for me because I don't support any party. I just think it's funny that he's got right up James Dornan's nose. And anybody who gets up James Dornan's nose is cool with me. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing and hit the bell for notifications, and YouTube will tell you every time I put a video out. But the most important thing of all, unless you're SNP, any of the cranks that still support them blindly, especially cranks like James Dornan, see everybody else. Have a great day. Cheery bye now.